stretch that it is not correct to say that they are immune. So they are not immune, they can actually be prosecuted. But what we have witnessed is that the law, when you have law enforcers who themselves are even being accused of partisanship, like we are having in Rivers State Assembly. And it also boils down to this question of our distorted federalism, that you have a governor who on paper is referred to as the Chief Security Officer, CSO, who is just nothing but a glorified secondary school prefect, who cannot even act as CSO in the proper sense of the word, because the commissioner of police that is needed to enforce the law, if there is breakdown of law and order, that the president is, that the governor can give reasonable directive to, that commissioner of police is not loyal to the governor. It's loyal to the police high authority, and that police high authority is an appendage of the federal government. So in the River State situation, there's no way the commissioner of police will have acted, contrary to the instruction of the external forces who are instigating the crisis. So the governor is completely helpless. At best, a toothless bulldog when it comes to enforcement of law. And that kind of crisis, reading River State Assembly has just become a kind of national embarrassment. So there is nothing the governor will have done in checkmating the violent trend, because he himself almost became a victim. Yes, because we read it in the media that even the governor was stoned or something like that. So there's nothing virtually he can do.
And even right now, he is saying that, he fears for his life and, he's no longer certain as to the security of his life. Well, a lot of people say that what happened is largely a PDP party affair. So it's like, okay, why don't we let the party sort out their own internal squabbles and crises and whatever they have going on there? Do you think that because of that maybe civil societies should turn a blind eye to what happened? Because
obviously not. We should not treat it as another family affair, quote and unquote, because PDP might be a crisis-ridden party, but mind you, your own right to be lawless and violent should actually has its limits. You cannot, because they cannot be assaulting our sensibilities, they cannot be causing lawlessness, brigandage, display of violence in that kind of dimension, and they are saying it's a family affair. So it is not a PDP affair as such. It might have been, it might have originated from, a political crisis within People's Democratic Party, but it is going to be irresponsible of the members of the populace, particularly the civil society, to now turn a blind eye under the guise that, well, it is the PDP issue. What about the innocent man who might have been caught in the violence, in the crossfire? So we cannot actually turn blind eyes to it, that it's a PDP affair. It is not a PDP affair. It's a national embarrassment caused by PDP. Pure and simple.
Okay. All right, we're still looking at the judiciary and political conflict resolution in Nigeria. And I'm really thinking, now the crisis in Rivers State started way before this incident in the State House of Assembly. Of course, we all knew what happened during the Governors Forum election and all the things that happened, the different factions, even amongst the governors, as to who should be their leader and all of that. So it happened long time ago. Now, the question is, what can the judiciary really do? Because you said initially that somehow the judiciary's hands are tied, being that unless something is presented to them, they cannot really act. Is that really all where it stops? Is there nothing else that the judiciary as a whole can do to resolve some of these disputes or disagreements, especially those that are of a political nature?
Well, like I earlier said, and I still maintain, that it is only what is presented to the judiciary that the judiciary will act on. But in the time past, where the opportunity is presented, the judiciary had acted. Okay. Like, you don't expect, in spite of the fact that the Chief Justice of Nigeria is the administrative head of the judiciary, you don't expect her to be making political conclusion on issues that can be subject of judicial inquiry. So that will be judiciary to be accused of being biased. However, in the time past that there have been that opportunity, like it happened in Oyo State, when the impeachment of former Governor Rashid Ladoja was invalidated by the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. It was an opportunity that presented itself. Prior to that time, prior to that incident in the case of Kojo and Adeleke, there have been this misconception that a group of people can just gather together, set the machinery in process to impeach a governor and go ahead with the impeachment. And because of this ouster clause in, I think, one subsection 10 of the law they were acting on, says the decision will not be subject to judicial inquiry. So they now believe that the judiciary has been actually been exempted, that the judiciary has been ousted from inquiry, from deciding on issues that borders on decision and resolution of House of Assembly. But that is not the law. The Supreme Court has restated the position of the law in that Ladoja case. So if that kind of opportunity is provided for the judiciary to further intervene, the judiciary will intervene appropriately. But the judiciary will now, what we call suo motu, as in court by its own, now begin to decide on issues that are not brought before it. So the judiciary will not do that.
Okay, now the governor as an individual, I'm talking about the River State governor, is it possible for him to seek some sort of legal redress still with the issues that are going on if the judiciary cannot act unless something is being presented to them? Can he actually present anything from the way things are now? Is there anything that he can do as an individual?
Well, I'm not a member of the Nigerian political system. I'm not a politician. And at the risk of, without sounding partisan, Rotimi Amaechi, the executive governor of Rivers State, has the law on his side in all this scenario that has pitched him against the powers that be at the federal. Like even from the governor's forum issue, where he was elected by a majority of the governor, and a man who had minority vote was being encouraged to parade himself as the chairman of governor's forum. So Rotimi, if such a matter is presented to court, Rotimi Amaechi will actually win. But like an average, most politicians usually prefer political solution to judicial intervention because of their own. They also have the way they compromise. They regard issues of national interest as family affairs that don't go to court, don't rock the boat. But if these things are being presented, or if he has option, he can go to court. Like even in the case of Rivers State, there's no way because the prelude, the build-up to the so-called removal or the attempt to remove the speaker was actually a build-up to the eventual removal of the governor. But that was lawlessness, brigandage. Those who participated in that cannot be described as lawmakers, but the law allows us to describe them as hoodlums because that is what they are. Because they are not lawmakers. Lawmakers will have to act within the confines of the law empowering them. So to that extent, Amaechi has he can actually go to court. He has options. Options are available, and in all those options, they are unassailable. He is going to, the court cannot decide otherwise. At the risk of, what I'm saying will not prejudice the men of the judiciary, but the law is very clear and well settled as to issues like this, and there are precedents. So applying those precedents to the likely judicial intervention in Amaechi's case, if Amaechi has explored that option, he's going to win, and his opponents will be very ashamed of themselves if they have any shame left, because his eyes solved for, for that kind of a thing to be happening in this present age.
Okay, well, like you said, the question really here is he going to want to pursue those options, of course, also considering his political future and what may happen if he goes ahead to seek redress at the courts. All right, now in conclusion, we're talking about the law. If we have laws that are already existing as to how lawmakers or even politicians should conduct themselves, and for some reason, maybe because of external influence, they are not abiding by what the law says, what do you think should happen? In what ways can we or should we encourage the rule of law in such a way that we will not be seeing things like that? The application of the rule of law in this instance, how can we encourage that?
How we can encourage that is that if those who are in charge, those who are in place, in position to promote the values of the rule of law, themselves are not law breakers, then it will have been very easy. But in a situation where those who are the opportunity, the biggest opportunity to ensure that laws are implemented, they themselves are the one encouraging breakdown of law and order. Then it becomes difficult. We as citizens can only agitate, we can make pronunciation, we can comment, but we are limited and constrained by the fact that the ruling class in Nigeria today is under the grip, the ruling class is unlawful. The way they act, if they only mount democratic slogan when it is convenient for them. They are not interested in even the law they themselves made. They want to violate the same law they made. It wasn't the people of Nigeria who made all these laws that these people are breaking. But they break this law with impunity whenever it is convenient for them to do so. So it is actually, but the only thing citizens can do is to ensure that we participate in the democratic process. Not necessarily as active politicians, but we participate in the process to the extent that we determine those who rule us. Because we cannot afford to have this breakdown of law and order in this dimension. It is dangerous for the continuous existence of Nigeria as a country.
Okay, and that's about the conclusion of that. Nobody is above the law. Nobody should be above the law. And what we can do as individuals is to actually insist that it follows, the law follows due course. And if anyone flouts the law, then such persons should be made also to face the consequences. Now, we have been looking at the judiciary and political conflict solution in Nigeria, or resolution rather, in Nigeria, and we did focus on the Rivers State crisis. And I had been talking with Taiwo Adedeji, who is a legal practitioner, a consultant, and a policy analyst. Thank you so much for coming on the program today. And thank you for being part, as always, on this particular program and on this edition as well. We will do this again next week. And also the morning show will be here tomorrow.
Welcome to Let's Talk.
To sit down and talk. We need to sit down and talk. How Nigeria should go, how we're going to do our job. You want to stand up and say no to corruption. We're going to do our job because we're cleaning the system. You are not just doing good for yourself or for the nation alone, you also do good for the future. The Sovereign National Conference, how do we want to achieve that in our present system? We need to sit down and iron out how Nigeria should be governed.